CMM has always been important for the tools that it gives people to better understand the process of communication. One of these is the LUUUUTT model, which we're going to talk about today. So the LUUUUTT model, and that's LUUUUTT, L-U-U-U-U-T-T. 1 L, 4 U's, 2 T's, where each letter represents a different facet of stories. So let's break it down. Starting with the first L, these are our lived stories. But what does that mean? Well, our lived stories are what we actually experience before we start attaching any meaning to it, right? So there's lived stories, and then our first U of the LUUUUTT model is for unknown stories, or what is missing. The next U is for untold stories, the things that we choose not to say. The third U is for unheard stories, stories that we do choose to tell that aren't heard or received. So this has less to do with the person telling the story and more to the person being told the story. The last U stands for untellable stories, stories that we do not tell because they are painful or forbidden by some standards in society. And this differs from untold stories because with untold stories, the way I see it is that we make the choice to withhold an untold story. But untellable stories almost demand secrecy. It's less about us making a conscious choice to withhold the story and more about not even feeling like we have the option to tell the story because of the content, because it's painful to us personally or stigmatized by society. And next is the first T, which stands for storytelling, the action of communicating our lived stories. It's more about how we are communicating. And the last T is stories told. If storytelling is the how, then stories told is the what, or the content of our stories that we tell. So to recap this model, LUUUUTT includes our stories lived, our unknown stories, our untold stories, our unheard stories, our untellable stories, our storytelling, and our stories told. The purpose of a model like this is to give us a lens to look at our life through, right? Like if we can have an experience and understand it as the multi-layered, complex collection of stories, both told and untold, that it is, right? If we can start to pay attention to the factors that we feel give us permission to tell our stories or signal that we're safe to tell our stories, or the factors that we feel prevent us from telling our stories because we recognize that they're not welcome or not validated in that space, then is when our experiences and our interpretations of those experiences become so much richer by having that understanding. Because it's true, there are so many outside bigger factors that are out of our control that do affect our stories, like our socioeconomic status, privilege, gender, race, sexuality. It's thinking about which voices are privileged over others in certain spaces, or how have similar stories been received before.